and being overweight on MSK injury rates. My name is Holly and I'm part of the professional development team here at IIRSM. In this webinar, Adam Hamilton, Operations Director at Healthcare RM, will demonstrate the benefit of regular daily movement over exercise and how this can reduce personal risk factors, which are directly linked to MSK injury and ill health. Before I hand over to Adam, there are just a few housekeeping type things I need to run through first. So first of all, you'll be on mute for the duration of the webinar, but please do ask any questions that you have using the chat function on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. Adam and I will pick up those questions at the end of his presentation. And secondly, this webinar is being recorded and a copy of the recording will be available on IIRSM's YouTube channel after the event. And we will also share a copy of this recording with Healthcare RM. Okay, that's enough from me. Adam, over to you.
Thank you, Holly. So yeah, as Holly was saying, today I really want to go over the importance of why inactivity and excess weight have such an impact on musculoskeletal injury rates. And just a quick background on myself, my interest and skill set lies really within sports and exercise and rehabilitation. And where I look at on a day-to-day basis is helping people understand the clinical and non-clinical risk factors that have an impact on why people get injured and ill and sick, and then looking at a holistic way of dealing with that and helping really look at root cause to overcoming and preventing future occurrences, but also proactively managing conditions. And what we see within the work we do at Healthcare RM is that 80% of sickness is non-clinical. And by that, I mean there's not a serious underlying pathology that is the reason why someone's off sick. It's usually down to a lifestyle related risk factor, such as lack of activity, being overweight, poor lifestyle behaviors such as excessive drinking or smoking, etc. So for the purpose of today, we're really going to focus on the inactivity and being overweight and why that's significant. And particularly in today's workforces, when we're looking at things that have either got a manual handling aspect, if it's a physical job that somebody is in, or even if it's sedentary office based, why do we still keep seeing MSK injury rates when we've put in manual handling training, when we're doing DSE assessments, when we're getting people ergonomic setups and ergonomic chairs and all of these sorts of things? It's really looking at the personal health risks and the individual themselves, and how, you know, when you're carrying excess weight and you're not keeping yourself active on a daily basis, what that actually does to your body, and why that's significant, and why that's the important thing to focus on, rather than looking at doing more manual handling training, or, you know, getting somebody an even more expensive chair, or, you know, something along those lines. There are occasions where somebody may need a specialist piece of equipment, but those are few and far between. The majority of the time when we look at it is we need to look at the individual and help educate and empower the individual with how they can improve and manage, you know, why do they get neck pain, shoulder pain, why are they getting these carpal tunnel type symptoms, why are they getting knee pain or lower back pain. So that's what we'll cover through today. So first little bit really is quite interesting. When you look at it, when you're walking around, you're putting 1.5 times your body weight through your lower limb joints. And when you're going up and upstairs, it's 2 to 3 times your body weight is going through sort of your ankle, your knee and your hip joint. When you're, you know, squatting down to tie your shoelaces, picking something up off the floor, it's 4 to 5 times your body weight that's the amount of pressure. So the increase through gravitational load. Why that's relevant is if you're of a healthy, normal body weight, then that's great. That's fine. Your body can deal with that. But if you're carrying excess weight, then obviously those numbers are multiplying. So if you're carrying an extra 5 kilos, 10 kilos, you're increasing the loads that your body's having to deal with, which on a day-to-day basis makes it more challenging for you to deal with. And then that leads to an increased risk of injury rate. So you can see the stat in the middle says for every 5 kilos that you're overweight, you increase your risk by 5% of back pain. And that's just looking at back pain. in particular, because it's the most common thing that people deal with and that we see come through as a referral. Why do people go off sick or have issues? And I think it's quite important to realize is that when you're trying to move your body and you're trying to get physically healthy, it's not so much about exercise, and it's looking at physical activity. And that's why I've put the next stat in, is the inadequate level of physical activity. There's a 14% increased risk of back pain. So that's not talking about people who don't exercise. That's just about they're not actually moving their body enough on a day-to-day basis. So by that, I mean, if you reflect on the jobs you do yourselves, how much of the day do you spend seated? So do you drive to work? Do you commute on the bus, the train? And how much of your time are you standing versus seated? And if you are seated throughout the day, how often do you get up from your chair, from your desk or your workstation and move around? Because those are the levels of physical activity that you want to look at. And it's when people are sedentary. So if they spend all day seated, then your body is getting deconditioned, your muscles aren't strengthening up, and obviously your joints, your ligaments and everything, they're not getting the loads that they require, that we need on a day-to-day basis. So we see a direct correlation between inactivity and being overweight, carrying excess weight, to increased injury risk, along with other physical conditions and disease pathways. So moving on, the interesting thing that's linked with all of this is the fact that it's not just musculoskeletal problems that we see are linked to inactivity and excess weight. You can also see here we've got things like dementia, depression, things like diabetes. They're all linked into this. Cardiovascular disease, I think, would be quite commonly associated. People link that in. But the interesting thing is on the mental health side of things is people don't realize the positive benefit of just activity and a healthy weight to mental health. It's becoming more well known in today's media, and we're seeing it more. It's getting referenced more. We're seeing a lot more research coming through showing the impact of keeping physically fit and healthy and active, and keeping to a healthy weight, and how that has a positive impact on mental health. And for what we know is that mental health and musculoskeletal are the two main reasons that employees will go off sick within the workplace, and there are two main reasons that we deal with. So when we know that both of those conditions, mental health and musculoskeletal, are linked in with activity and maintaining a healthy weight, then it seems quite a sensible thing to be able to sort of kill two birds with one stone, really, and the impact it can have to all these other conditions as well. Reason being is that by keeping physically active, it has a positive influence on the hormones within the body, within your biochemistry, and everything that's going on. So it really keeps the body functioning and the mind functioning well. And this has been known back to ancient Greece about how a physically fit body keeps a fit mind. So this is one of the things that we try and advocate, is helping people keep physically fit. And by physically fit, what we talk about is not so much about you need to go down the gym and lift loads of weights, or you need to go run marathons. It's keeping yourself physically active and doing various activities that you can link into your day-to-day living, that will keep you healthy, keep your mind active, keep your mind healthy, and it will keep your body fit. That will keep your weight in control. That will reduce your risks of musculoskeletal injuries. It'll also boost your mood, and boost the positive psychological effects of activity. So on that note, we move to the next bit. So when I say about moving your body, it's simple things. And I like to think about keeping some simplicity and consistency, and looking at activity rather than exercise. Exercise is often seen as a bit of a dirty word. People go, I hate exercise. It's a chore. Don't want to do it. Don't want to go to the gym. Whereas when you look at it and say, okay, but simple things like cleaning your car, doing DIY, taking a dog for a walk. If you've got a family, if you've got children, spending time with them, playing games with them, silly things, stupid things, hide and seek, frisbee, things that are just moving your body. If you want to dance, whatever it is, just things that get your body moving, that elevate your heart rate, that get the blood pumping around the body, they're all really, really good things physically and mentally. And we know that exercise is almost used as prescription nowadays, and we're using it as, go and do your 30 minutes, go and do your 60 minutes of exercise, but forgetting about how active we are throughout the rest of the day. And if you're sedentary for the rest of the day, and you only do an hour of exercise a day, then you're not going to see the same benefit as if you keep yourself active all day. So you get up and move from your desk, or you go and do a little bit more walking in the lunchtime. You try and fit things in. You do your chores around the house. You do your DIY. You try and make things as physically active as possible. That will get you really well conditioned, keep you physically fit, and that will have more benefit to your overall health and longevity than just doing 1 hour of exercise a day. I use this same model within rehabilitation. Is I will explain to patients that if I give them a set of rehab exercises to do, if they only do their rehab exercises once a day, but they don't focus on the other things that we've discussed, whether it's thinking about their posture, or getting up and moving from their desk every hour, or drinking plenty of water, if they only do their rehab exercises, the efficacy of those exercises won't be as great as if they do everything. So it's a holistic approach. It's the sum of all parts, really, and looking at how all of the marginal gains can be made through small changes. So, cleaning your car is a fantastic way of getting some physical activity in, rather than taking it to the car wash or getting someone else to do it. It's some physical work. Cutting the grass, we've done some stats and studies on this, how that is increasing your energy expenditure, and how these simple little activities can really build up on a day-to-day basis. So a couple of minutes here and there of things really make a difference. I think we've all heard, and sort of society wise, park further away, get off a bus stop early, take the stairs, these sort of things. And you might be thinking, yeah, but how much does that really make a difference? Well, if you add it up every single day over the weeks and months and over the course of your lifetime, it makes a really significant difference. And that's the key thing, is playing the long game on this, and not trying to think about a quick fix. It's about a long term, how can I make this work for my life and make it consistent, which again is why I like to stick to the think of activity, think about stuff you can do as part of daily living, things that you enjoy, that you can do, that will fit in with your work-life balance, that will fit in with your family, your social side of things. Because that's the key thing. If you try and take up an exercise routine or a diet that doesn't really fit with things and you don't like it, then you're fighting a losing battle. And from a behavior change point of view, you won't stick with it, and then you'll revert back to type. Whereas if you can find things that you enjoy, that you can do consistency, and you can keep simplistic, then you'll stick with it, and that will have a long-term benefit on your physical and your mental health. And that's really what we're aiming for here, is really trying to make sure that you keep it going year after year, and that is a more proactive way of managing it, rather than any yo-yo diets or yo-yo exercise routines. We see it in the media. Men's Health will have, get six-pack abs by Friday, try this routine, and the next month they've got another magic routine, and the next month there's another magic routine. So the key thing here is, if you just stick to one thing and keep doing it, then it'll be more effective than jumping and switching between things and chopping and changing. So moving on. My top tips that I'd say, again, keeping it very, very simple here, is eating well. And when I say eating well, I'm not talking about any special diet. I'm not an advocate of diets in the sense of it has got the word die in it. So I don't think that's a positive thing itself. All joking aside, diets are restrictive. And again, life is about, enjoyment, which is why I have on there the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time, keep things good. 20% of the time have those little indulgences. It is about moderation at the end of the day, and we know what's good for us. It's very simple in terms of, from a nutrition point. Natural foods that are unprocessed are best for the body. Processed foods are not so good for the body. So if you think of it in those terms of eating more natural foods that are unprocessed the majority of the time, getting your fruits and your vegetables in, drinking plenty of water, yeah, you can still have some processed foods, but don't have them all the time, then that's more beneficial than trying to follow a set diet that's restrictive, that you don't want to stick to. It's better psychologically as well. Anytime you restrict yourself psychologically, you will want to cheat and bounce off it and go off the wagon. So when you give yourself the freedom to eat what you want, but know that you just want to have the consistency of eating the good foods and the right foods 80% of the time, then that's actually easier for you to maintain long term. Keeping active, as I've said, you just really want to, on a daily basis, make sure you're keeping your body as active as possible, moving as much as possible. Focus on that first, but before even thinking about exercise. And if you want to start doing exercise, do an exercise routine that you enjoy, that you really feel that you're going to get a benefit out of, that you say, yeah, I could do this for life. I want to stick to this. So if you enjoy running, go and start running. If you enjoy cycling, do that. If it's yoga, do that. If it's walking, whatever it is, find what works for you. Don't try and do something that somebody else is doing if it doesn't work for you. Sleep is the next one that I think is really important. And in today's society, we definitely have a sleep deficit. We don't sleep enough and we don't get enough quality sleep. So trying to get a regular sleep pattern and sleep routine is really, really key. And that really links into, the kind of keeping your life in balance. Why this is important is in terms of your musculoskeletal injury rates and being overweight, then your activity levels, obviously, as you get more active, you can need more sleep. But also, sleep plays an important part in recovery and restoration and making sure your body's recovered for the following day. So to start on that journey, you've got to make sure you're getting some really good sleep. Then next on the list, obviously, we've got is doing social things you enjoy. Again, life is about enjoyment, having fun, getting out there, doing different social things that really gets you, again, getting you active. If you can do that, will really help long term. And that will, in essence, help as a preventative part of cutting down on musculoskeletal issues, because the more things you can do that gets you out there, gets you active, that's also social, it's good for your mind, it's good for your body, and that will play a big part in prevention. And as we know, prevention is better than a cure. And as I said, the impact of being overweight and being inactive has a huge influence. So we see this all the time with people, and what we want to do is we give them these simple tips on how they can improve, because you start cutting down your weight, it has a big impact on knee rehab and knee recovery. Cutting down 5 kilos of weight has a big impact on reducing back pain and recovery from back pain. When people go for surgery, we try and prehab them so that they cut their weight down before surgery if they're overweight, because it has an impact on their recovery timescales. Now, obviously, these tips are quite easy to follow, and they're not complicated in any way, and you don't require any money as such. You don't need to join a gym or anything to do most of these. You just simple rules of living a healthy lifestyle. Which brings me on to the final slide, really, to summarize what we've discussed today and to go through everything. So in essence, we've just seen it on the previous slides, but it's about moving more. It's about eating well, sleeping well, enjoying social time with friends and family, and that's really, really key. And particularly if we start to see people with musculoskeletal injuries, there is the psychosocial factors that are linked into that. So it's the thoughts and behaviors that surround musculoskeletal injuries. And it's keeping people socially active and engaged with their family and friends when they do get an injury, And to prevent that is actually keeping socially active in the first place. And the 80-20 rule as well, of doing things, 80% of the time stick to the good things, 20% of the times where you can have those indulgences, that's absolutely fine. And I think it's really remembering these simple points, and how, if you focus on that, then you will have a very, very proactive, preventative approach to cutting down those MSK risks, but also at the same time improving on the mental health aspects. And as we see a lot of the time, is if you can address both of them at the same time, it's very, very positive overall for the individual, long term and short term. And as I said, the impact of weight and inactivity is very significant. And I think it's helping people realize that, and that it doesn't need to be complicated. Yes, there's no quick fixes to it, but these simple tips and the element of just moving more, eating well rather than diets, and sleeping well really is beneficial to the individual and will help them long term. So there are no silver bullets, sadly. There are no magic pills. There's no magic exercise routine, but what there is just a simple approach of keeping yourself physically active, being proactive in the management of it, eating the right foods, and eating healthy majority of the time, and enjoying your life and having fun. Those are the best tips of reducing down MSK risk and also improving mental health at the same time.
Hi Adam, it's Holly here.
Hi there.
It was really interesting, especially to see the link between the MSK injuries and the mental health as well.
Yeah.
As mentioned at the start of the webinar, if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to write those in the chat function. We'll stay online for another 5 minutes or so. So
yeah,
do ask any questions that you might have, and I'll answer those for you. Waiting to see if any questions come through. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about healthcare RM and the services you provide?
Yeah, so healthcare RM, what we provide is we're an integrated healthcare service. So we look at basically the occupational side of things, the lifestyle related. We're helping manage sickness absence. We deal with healthcare plans, first day sickness absence. We're helping companies get their employees back from sickness. We're doing rehabilitation for the NHS as well. So we're very much a one-stop shop for clients, fully integrated service where we're linking up. We link with other providers as well. We're very much trying to look at the root cause of what's going on and looking at things from a holistic point. So if somebody, for instance, says they've got work-related stress, as we try to understand, is it work-related stress or is it they're stressed at work? And if they're stressed at work, why are they stressed at work? What else is going on with that individual? And let's say musculoskeletal wise, if they're an engineer or they've got a manual job and they get back pain, it's like, well, why do they get back pain but the other 300 people in that team don't get back pain? It's looking at the personal risk. So we then try and help educate and empower the employee and the line manager on how to manage that correctly and proactively prevent future occurrences to reduce sickness costs and to reduce sickness absence for the benefit of the employee and also for the business as well.
Okay, thank you. We haven't got any questions come through at the moment, but are you happy for me to share your email address with
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
If anybody would like to get in contact with Adam directly after this presentation, you'll have his details to be able to do so.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Adam, and thank you to everyone for joining.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.